She had done everything right. Eleanor was 68 when she first sat across from me. Four doctors in 3 years, thyroid checked normal, iron supplements prescribed, melatonin for sleep, and the same answer every single time. It's probably your age. She came to me still exhausted. When I listened to her full story, not each symptom separately, but all of them together, something didn't add up. The iron wasn't climbing despite supplementation. Sleep hadn't improved. She had this strange pattern: bloating that vanished for a week, came back for 3 days, then disappeared again. And almost as an aside, she mentioned something she'd never told the other doctors: a recurring itch at night. She assumed it was dry skin. I asked one question nobody had asked before: when had anyone actually looked inside her gut for parasites? Nobody had. 3 weeks later, we had our answer. This is not a story about bad luck. It's a story about a gap one that costs people years of unnecessary suffering. And today I'm going to show you exactly where that gap is. I'm a physician with over 15 years of experience working with adults over 60. I've sat with hundreds of patients whose symptoms were treated but never resolved because nobody looked in the right place. That's why this channel exists. And before we go further, if you're watching this and recognizing yourself in what I'm describing, subscribe right now. This video is part of a series, and each episode builds on the last. The subscribe button is below. Come back here. Here's what most people don't know: intestinal parasites are not a problem of other countries or poor sanitation. Giardia is the most commonly diagnosed intestinal parasite in the United States right now. The World Health Organization estimates over 1.5 billion people carry helminths globally. And that doesn't even count protozoal infections found regularly in North American water and food supplies. The assumption that this can't happen to me is exactly why the right question never gets asked. There are 5 signals your body sends. Each one alone means little, but when they appear together, cycle on their own schedule, or don't respond to standard treatment, that is a clinical argument for a different kind of evaluation. Fatigue that sleep doesn't fix, not tiredness that improves after rest. The kind that greets you in the morning exactly as heavy as it was the night before. After 60, doctors call it aging. But when fatigue coexists with low iron or B12 that won't normalize, I want to look at the gut first. Digestion that cycles, constipation, then loose stools, then a week of normal, then back again. People adapt and assume it's just how they are now. It isn't. This cycling pattern follows the biological rhythms of organisms living inside the gut. Sudden cravings for sugar and carbohydrates. Certain parasites feed primarily on glucose. They can interfere with the gut brain signals that regulate appetite. When this craving appears alongside fatigue and digestive cycling with no other explanation, it matters. Skin changes without a clear cause. Eczema like patches, hives that come and go, unexplained itching. The gut and skin are connected through immune signaling. When the gut lining is compromised, that immune activation shows up on the skin in ways that look completely unrelated to digestion. Nocturnal perianal itching, the itch that appears at night around the rectal area that most people blame on hemorrhoids or dry skin. This is the classic symptom of pinworm infection, far more common than people think, especially in adults living with school-age grandchildren. Almost never mentioned at a medical appointment unless the doctor asks directly. Here is the problem with standard clinical practice. When a doctor orders a stool test, they order a bacterial culture. It looks for Salmonella, E. coli, Campylobacter. It does not look for parasites, not for eggs, not for cysts, not for larvae. For that, you need a completely different test, a stool ove and parasite examination. And because parasites shed eggs in cycles, a single sample can come back negative during an active infection. You need 2 to 3 samples on separate days. Giardia requires its own specific antigen test. It won't show up on a standard panel. The right test was simply never ordered, not from negligence, because the thought never occurred to anyone. I have sat with patients who spent years on antidepressants for fatigue, who tried every iron supplement available, who were told they had IBS when the actual answer was sitting in their gut, undetected. Here is the mechanism that connects everything. Parasites physically compete for the nutrients your gut absorbs. Hookworms feed on blood, causing iron deficiency that oral supplements can't fix because you're losing iron faster than you're taking it in. Tapeworms consume B12 before your body can absorb it. Giardia coats the intestinal wall like a physical film, blocking absorption of fats, vitamins, and carbohydrates entirely. Then the cycle starts. Parasites deplete nutrients, depleted nutrients, weaken immunity. Weakened immunity lets parasites persist more. Parasites create more inflammation. Inflammation damages the gut lining. A damaged lining absorbs even less. The body sends signals, but each signal gets a separate treatment. The fatigue gets a supplement. The skin gets a cream. The mood gets a medication. Nobody asks what connects them. 4 natural compounds won't treat an active infection, but they make your gut environment harder to exploit every single day. Raw garlic. The active compound allicin forms only when garlic is crushed raw. Studies show activity against Giardia and entamoeba. Half a clove, raw, chopped, added to food shortly after preparation. Pumpkin seeds contain cucurbitakin, which temporarily paralyzes certain helminths. A generous handful of raw, unsalted seeds daily, not a sprinkle. Consistency over weeks is what matters. Clove. Uniquely, its active compound eugenol works against parasite eggs and larvae, not just adults. Most interventions miss the reproductive cycle entirely. Clove doesn't. Ginger improves gut motility, reduces inflammation, supports the mucosal lining. One of the safest daily additions for adults over 60 in any form. These are not treatments. They are daily maintenance combined with high soluble fiber from oats, flaxseed, and legumes that shift the gut environment in your favor. Go to a doctor promptly if you have unintentional weight loss, blood in the stool, fatigue that prevents normal daily function, or symptoms that began after travel, or a gut illness that resolved but left lingering problems. Don't manage these at home. Eleanor recovered. Her iron normalized, sleep changed. The cycling stopped. At her follow-up, she told me that for 3 years she had been told the problem was her age. She was 68. She had decades ahead of her. The body doesn't send vague signals. It sends specific ones. The problem is that we sort them into separate drawers. Fatigue here, digestion there, skin somewhere else. And nobody asks what connects them. What connected Eleanor's symptoms was something that simply hadn't been looked for. The next episode covers exactly how to rebuild the gut after any disruption, including this one. It's the second chapter to what you just heard. Link is in the description.